Running a business is a different thing altogether, and it's hard. I had no clue, and I really struggled for the first year. It was just ridiculous. Spent over 20K on training, NLP and hypnotherapy, and then it's like, ta-da, I'm here, everybody, come and hire me. And all of a sudden, it's crickets and tumbleweed, and 99% of people who start off as a coach don't go on to be a full-time successful coach. That 50K is absolute fantasy island stuff. As human beings, we want to believe it's possible. We want to believe we can effortlessly scale to 10K months. Of course, you can find people who'll tell you can do it because they want your money. I get called salty and snarky, and yeah, I'm going to be unkind to you if I see you trying to rip off coaches. They're not going to tell you, like I do on my website, that it's really fucking hard to be a successful coach.
All right. Yet another episode of C2C, Coach to Coach Central, where we have raw and honest conversation about building a coaching business. And I have another amazing guest today, who's a colleague of mine. He helps coaches. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here, Lydia.
So I always start with a quick intro.
Yeah, my name's Tim Brownson. I live in the UK now. I lived in Florida for 14 years. Been a coach for 20 years. First got in, I was a life coach between 2005. We moved to the US in 2006 and was a life coach till about 2012. And then I got more and more coaches coming to me to ask me help them do what I'd done with my business, which was build it up in the online space. So started really organically working with coaches. Like I say, that was 2011, I think, was the first person, but started really full-time 2013, so about 12 years ago now. And that's what I've been doing ever since, just helping coaches with marketing, niching, branding, and that kind of thing. So that is what I'm doing full-time and will continue to do till I retire.
Cool. What was your marketing and business background?
So I worked in sales for 20 years, and for the last 10 years of that, up until us moving to the US, was corporate sales, B2B. And I was just always stressed, really, always. I didn't sleep very well, spent a lot of money on alcohol and going on vacations. And
because of the job, because of the sales job.
Okay. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a very stressful, high octane environment. I was working in media sales as well. You know, it's kind of like very much a work hard, party hard type atmosphere. And that once you get into your 40s, that starts to wear you down a bit. And 2004, I went and took a stress management diploma at Sheffield University, thinking, just to help me manage my own stress levels. And I think it was then that I heard about life coaching and decided to take a life coach training in 2005. Again, really just to make me a better sales manager. I thought it'd give me the tools. You know, for anybody that's done any coach training, most of the people there are to work on themselves, you know. We're all trying to figure our own shit out, you know. So I took that and really enjoyed it and thought, that would be a cool thing to do. And my area manager had already said to me at one point I would make a good coach. I talked to him about it. He was very supportive. And at the time, I knew we were probably moving to the US, and the saving grace of working in sales in the UK was 5 weeks paid vacation a year. Now, I was moving to the US. I'd be lucky if I got 1 week paid vacation a year. I just thought, I can't take this to move over there and start doing it. And, you know, it's like starting from scratch. So I thought, I'll be a coach instead, and then I can work for myself and work from home. And that's pretty much what I did. But I had no clue. And I really struggled for the first year. It was just ridiculous. You know, I just used to sit by the pool. We'd rented this house with a pool and took more and more training, spent over 20K on training, NLP and hypnotherapy and more coach training, all sorts.
So coach training, correct?
Yeah. So becoming a better and better coach, thinking, well, if I'm a really good coach, you know, people will be beating a path to my door. Yeah, nobody was beating a path to my door. I think
Surprise!
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think maybe the repo men would have, the bailiffs in England, if I'd have given it long enough and not got my act together. So for about a year, I really struggled. I had a couple of clients, and then I thought, I need to figure this out. And I think it was end of September. I started blogging September 2006, and then I really sort of dove into that the end of the year. I basically saw back in the day, you used to have the blog rolls down the side of the blogs, and you would share links with people because it helped with your SEO. So I went on this one blog and I followed this link, and suddenly I started to realize there's this entire network of self-development bloggers that all knew each other. So I contacted a couple, and I got to know them all as well. There were people at the time. There was a bunch. One was a guy called Leo Barriuta who started Zen Habits, and he went on. He had 2 million subscribers at one point. And that's how I got into the blogging, into SEO, and guest posting and that kind of thing. And that's from there it really took off.
And did it fuel your coaching business? Did you get leads, clients from that?
Yeah, it did. Yeah. That really was what I built my business on, which was a lot of SEO, a lot of guest posting, which this now I often describe podcasting now as the 2025 or 2020s version of where guest blogging was in the late 90s, early 10s, when then that was how you got in front of other people's audiences, which you must do if you're, to succeed in any sort of online business, I would say.
Cool.
And that grew, and then by 2010, I was getting, maybe 2009, I got like 12,000 people on my list. I was getting 1,500 unique visitors a day to my website. I was pretty much full with clients all the time, and it was going well. And that's when I started to have, just a little bit after that, other coaches coming to me that were struggling to help them.
What is the biggest pain or the biggest obvious mistakes over the last 20 years that you've been helping coaches keep making this mistake that keeps them stuck, broke, or even quit the coaching thing? Because there are a lot of them.
Predominantly, it's putting all the money into training, a bit like I did. Basically, I made the number one mistake, and I think, but you've got to ask yourself, why do they do that? And I think in large part it's because they don't know. So if you go onto any coach training website, they're not going to tell you, like I do on my website, that it's really fucking hard to be a successful coach. They are not going to tell you that. They're going to tell you coaching is the fastest growing industry in the world, which basically means with coaches, not with clients. And so coaches go into it with this belief that like I did again, if I'm a great coach, I have this desire to help people. So I see it on coaches' websites. I was put on this earth to help people. It doesn't matter. That's the minimum bar to entry of being a coach. Nobody should be a coach if they haven't got a desire to help people. That's why we all do it. We like helping people. Doesn't separate you. So people come into the industry, they spend what money they've got on training, and then it's like, da-da, I'm here, everybody, come and hire me. And all of a sudden it's crickets and tumbleweed and nothing's happening. And then they don't know what to do. And a lot of them are frustrated, they feel cheated. And some people are embarrassed because maybe they've been told by family, oh, you'll never make a go of it. And it's this perfect storm of crapness that's coming on top of them. So that's that's what kicks it all off. Going into it, not realizing how tough it was going to be. And I have these conversations literally every day, Lydia, with people.
Yeah.
It's just like, I didn't know it was going to be like this. Well, why would you? If you've never run a business, but it is a business. So coaches are coming in thinking that the coaching is the hard part. In 20 years of doing this, Lydia, I have never, ever heard a coach who'd quit, and I've spoke to loads who have quitted, scores of them. I've never heard anybody say to me, "Yeah, I just wasn't a very good coach."
Yeah.
Never. But I've heard almost all of them saying, "I just didn't have enough clients." The coaching bit, not really that hard to be a competent coach. Maybe a world-class coach is a little bit
Mhm.
different, a little bit more dedication and training and
Right.
so on and so forth. But to be a competent coach isn't, it's not. Yeah, I think there's certain people that lend themselves to be good coaches because the skills you need to be a good coach really, being able to build rapport, being able to ask good questions, and then really shut the fuck up. They're the three skills that you need. Now, there are certain people in certain roles that already do those things. Sales, they're the
Exactly.
exact same things you need as a salesperson. If you come from any caring background like nurses or even teachers, there's loads of people that have to learn those key skills that can
Right.
make good coaches. But running a business is a different thing altogether, and it's hard running a business. It really is.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think that's nice segue into my next question. You had conducted a survey and a blog post, The State of Coaching 2023. I think it applies to today, although it's dated 23. I don't think much changed. So, and although the number of people are not, thousands of people, but I think, I think it represents the reality. At least that's what I've experienced over the years, and it confirms my experience. So there are really good statistics in this survey of yours, but it's just a few of them that stood out and make me furious, make me more passionate about what I do. 89 people completed. Only 6 said that they had enough paying clients.
Yeah. Yeah, it was 89. I thought it was a few more than that. But yeah, and I actually wonder if that's even true. And I do think that's accurate. I think that's high. So with that, you're looking about 7-8%. I actually don't think it's anything like 7 or 8%. And
Right.
bear in mind, these are people that survey went out to people on my list. So people on my list are probably a little bit
Higher
yeah, a little bit
higher
sadder
results.
because I'm not really talking down to people. I'm sharing sort of more technical stuff sometimes. But I think for people that call themselves a coach, it's lower than that. So
Mm.
I think 99% of people who start off as a coach don't go on to be a full-time successful coach. A lot of people, and by the way, there's some people that do it a hobby, and that's absolutely fine if you want to do it as a
Yeah.
hobby. But to do it, make a decent living from it, excuse me, is hard, and those people are in the minority.
Yeah, and that leads to the next observation that you got, that you rarely meet a coach who earn north of 50K, and
Right.
most of them want at least twice as much, correct? And we
Yeah.
see the confirmation in the ICF survey, right? If you look at the average, and you have to be careful with the averages because they can be misleading, but even the average is about 50K plus or minus depending on the year. So this is the fact. This is the fact. And majority, because we're looking at the average, majority are earning way less than that.
Mm. The ICF, we're talking about the global study that came out
Yeah.
in 2023. I am
Right.
really dubious about that. I do not believe that it's a fair representation, because I know they did poll some people that weren't ICF coaches, but and it's difficult to get the exact source of the data. But I think for the most part, it was ICF coaches that were replying to the survey. So you've got to imagine there's somebody that pays, say, minimum 5K to do ICF training. 10K is not unusual. People that spend that kind of money are more likely to be successful because they've got more of an investment, more skin in the game. I think, and this is what I was saying when I said about people that call themselves a coach. So people that maybe, I saw some coach trained on Facebook, $7 the other day. $7 to get become certified for $7.
No,
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 seriously.
real for
Yeah,
real.
yeah. And I've seen courses on Udemy for less than $50 to become a
Correct.
certified coach. So
Correct.
if we take those people as well at the bottom end, then that 50K is absolute fantasy island stuff. I bet it's less than, I bet it's four figures if everybody that thinks of themselves as a coach is on. Now, people who are ICF certified, certainly MCCs, PCCs, then yeah, it's going to be higher. I'm still dubious that it's 50K. I really don't think. And the other thing to take into account, Lydia, anybody watching or listening to this, is even if it is higher, and it will be higher than the average person, it's not because they're ICF trained. No, in all the time I was coaching, only once did I have somebody ask me if I was ICF. And when I said no, because we didn't have ICF in the UK back then, the guy hired me anyway. Nobody knows. If you walk down a high street and you stop 100 people and say, "What's the ICF?"
Yeah,
Maybe
they
one
wouldn't know.
person will know. And that's because they're a fucking coach. Nobody knows outside.
That's because they paid. That's because they paid.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, if you want to do corporate work, yeah, you're going to probably need ICF.
There we go.
You're not going to get past an HR department without ICF. But
Yeah.
members of the public, they don't know what it is.
Correct. Now switching gears, but staying on your blog post and your survey that you did, one that struck me, and again because this is kind of close to heart, is even though so many coaches struggle and they need to scale up and they need to do it quickly because they need to pay the bill, only 10.5% spend over 10K in 2022 on marketing their business. And I assume that includes hiring a coach, ads, or any other marketing activities. So people don't realize 10%. So what do? Do they get another certification and think that's going to give them clients?
Yeah, probably that's what I did. So I think it's not, maybe they don't spend anything. So if you're on the outside looking in, and let's suppose maybe a partner works. Okay, maybe a partner works, and you've always been told by friends, "Oh, you're a great listener and you should be a coach," and what have you, and you hear about life coaching, and then you go and look at it, you don't see a bar to entry. Because there isn't one. What do you need? You need this. You need a laptop and a phone, which most people have got anyway, an internet connection. You can throw a website up now, and most life coaching websites have literally been thrown up. They look like they're done by a 12-year-old on acid or something. So you can get a website out there and you can get onto social media. So there's no bar to entry. So they just dive in there, and they actually haven't got any money to run a business. I had a lady, I did an offer for some free coaching with me, and I asked people to write to me. Big mistake this was, but anyway, I asked people to write to me and tell me why I should take them on, because I had like 3 clients write to me. I didn't know what to do. I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And she said, "Tim, if you told me it was $5, I couldn't afford it." I'm going back 10 years when I lived in America. $5, I couldn't afford it. And so I emailed her back. I said, "It's a business. If you haven't got $5, how do you think you can run a business? There are expenses that you need to pay for." And then I usually hear back, "Well, I'll wait till I get my first client." Yeah, but you won't get your first client. You need the business to get the clients. I mean, the thing is, we're saying things like this very stridently, Lydia, me saying you won't do that. Of course, every now and then somebody does do it. And they're like, "See, I told you could do
somebody wins a lottery once in a while, correct?"
Exactly. Every blind squirrel finds a nut from time to time. Yeah, it can happen, but it almost certainly isn't, and you shouldn't be
Relying on that
time or thinking you've got to bring money in by a certain deadline. Otherwise, you can't pay for your kids' food or what have you.
Correct. And then the last point from that report, and we'll move on, is almost 60% of coaches haven't ever hired their own coach to help them grow their practice. And there is another question that asks the reason, and I think majority is because they didn't have the money to do that. So they spend all the money on certifications, I guess, or they just decided there is $0 entry in this market and they just didn't have any money to spend on it. 60% of coaches have never hired a coach. And there are other reasons, like they don't know who to trust. And we'll get to trust in a sec. But yeah, so coaches, and I'm going to say my strong opinion, if you're a coach who never hired and paid for coaching, that you should not be a coach, because that means you're not taking your own medicine. You think you can do everything by yourself. Why do you think your clients? So you're putting yourself above your clients if you believe you can do everything by yourself. What would you say?
Well, yeah, I'm going to agree, obviously, aren't I? I mean,
I don't know.
it's like a dentist having green teeth who won't go to a dentist, or a hairdresser looks like they've cut the hair with a knife and fork. Yeah, you've got zero credibility to call yourself a coach. You've demonstrated that you don't trust the industry, or and I know a lot of the time it is money that people can't afford to hire a coach. But even there are coaches at the bottom end of the ladder. But I think it's that act of spending money. Yeah, I've worked with I think about 10 coaches now over the years. And we know as coaches that coaches help accelerate our success, our progress in whatever it is we're doing. And we've all got blind spots. That's part of coaching, to understand that people have got blind spots. So it defies any logic other than I just haven't got any money. And then if you haven't got any money, should you really be starting a business? You wouldn't start a restaurant, you wouldn't start a store, or there's not many businesses you'd start.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a business.
No, absolutely. All right. Well,
By
jump
the
in.
way, idiot, you made me think as we're talking about this. I should do
Yes.
that again. I should do that again at the end of this year, because I'm not. I actually surveyed those people in. I think it was January 20. I did it for 2 consecutive years. One year I got about 110. I thought the second
Yeah.
year I got about 97, but it may have been 80 something.
Yeah. Because yeah, absolutely, you should. Because I look at other reports, and we had a bit of a chat in the LinkedIn messages about this. I look at the ICF report, and I'm like, I think it's misleading. Misleading. This is the word I was looking for. It's misleading. I've seen another report, and I was even going to buy it, but then I looked through executive summary, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure. It focuses, well, first of all, it's 400 people, and secondly, it focuses on people who made it. So we jumping into the survival bias right in, and we are misleading people with the survival bias. So if you're listening to people who made it, right, but what about the other 99% who didn't?
Yeah, I mean, it is important to see what people have done that have done it successfully to follow them, but you also need to know what the pitfalls are as well. I wasn't familiar with that job until you told me that book, rather, until you told me about it on LinkedIn. I went and took a look. So it's like $375, I believe. I just thought, yeah, I'm not that bothered. I pretty much have, I think I know enough. I'm 63. I don't really need to know any more about the coaching industry. I like to be kind of aware, but to start studying trends like that, no, I'm probably not going to spend $375 on that.
Same here. Although I'm because people asking me when I do my webinars, and one of my webinar is 7 traps or 7 mistakes that new coaches do. And I cite the anecdotal statistic that I think 80% of coaches give up by year 3, or find a job to pay the bill, or kind of make a pivot, or just quit. And people ask me, like, what is the source? And I don't have a source. That's why I'm kind of always looking, how can I confirm that what I'm saying is true? And I thought maybe this, but I don't think it's going to give me what I'm looking for.
And by the way, I would say that figure's over 95%, probably
There you go.
98. And I get asked the same thing, how do you know that? Okay, well, I've got a Facebook group with 6,700 coaches. I've got another Facebook group with 2,000 coaches. I've got 3,000 connections on LinkedIn. I've got 4,500 followers on Twitter, X, whatever. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got a list with 2,500 coaches on. So I'm constantly talking to coaches and interacting with coaches. I'm friends with a lot of coaches as well, that some of whom are actually competitors to mine. So I never hear anything to make me think, oh, I wonder if that's wrong. Now you could say, oh, well, yeah, you wouldn't. Confirmation bias. You're looking for, no, not. If I'm wrong, I want to know I'm wrong. I hate sharing information with people that isn't right. I absolutely hate doing that. It's just, that's all I ever hear is coaches leaving the industry because it's hard.
Right.
So.
You have another blog post about the trustworthiness and legitimacy crisis of coaching industry. I want to dig into that because I feel it. I feel like I was talking to a friend the other day, and she's like, I'm in Instagram and I received so many DMs from people saying, oh, I'll help you get to 5 figures, 6 figures in 90 days and whatever, 30 days. So you keep hearing these inflated promises from people who, when you check them, zero or fake or looking fake testimonials and results from other people. Maybe they're real, but again, survival bias. So what do you think? And I know it's a general question, but do you think we are in this trustworthiness and legitimacy bias? And I'm going to next go to the next question. What is the solution generally, and maybe for each individual coach?
Well, there's a really big coaching group on Facebook, and I got kicked out of that group for highlight because I would point out people who got fake accounts, because I'm used to spotting fake accounts on Facebook, and there was a pattern to them. It was always attractive white women from America, and they always had two names like Jill, Joe, whatever, there was just all these people. They obviously got this like template to setting up these fake accounts, and they always and they really kicked off in the last 2 years. Oh, what have we had in the last 2 years? AI imagery. So they got AI photos. These people that you couldn't find these photos anywhere else. They got 2 photos. So I got kicked out, and I'm not really. I'm still not sure why they kicked me out for doing this. Because I was doing it to help people, because I hate seeing people get ripped off. I used to go in the subreddit, Life Coach Snark, and post in there and tell people.
And it's hurting everybody else in the industry, correct?
Right, exactly. So I think the owner of that group was maybe doing some stuff himself. I'm not sure, and it doesn't matter. So what can we do about it? Well, we can highlight it. I get called salty and snarky and being told I'm unkind or what have you. Yeah, I'm going to be unkind to you if I see you trying to rip off coaches. There's no excuse for that. So there's a lot of people preying on the industry, and that's because you've got a lot of desperate people within the industry that are desperate for clients, and that's how this kind of like sort of sub industry grows up with these people, whether they are funnel builders or appointment setters or copywriters or whatever. There's this industry that's grown up of people to go after coaches. And like I say, all we can do is point it out. Whenever I see somebody share information that I know is demonstrably and objectively incorrect, I will say, I'm in a Facebook group called the Coaching Jungle that's got about 25,000 plus people in it. And Mark Mawhinney, who owns it, I've known Mark for probably over 10 years now. I think I've been in that group since more or less it started. And he gives me quite a lot of freedom to. Yeah, it's the Wild West, because it's 25,000 people and probably 20,000 are marketers trying to sell to coaches. So there's a lot of this cyclical stuff going on. But So what can be done about it? We can call it out. I think if we know people are BSing, I understand why some people don't like the confrontation. It doesn't bother me. I've been in the online space for 20 years. I've had anything you can think of insult I've had aimed at me at some point. So it's just water off a duck's back. It doesn't bother me. So we can call it out.
Okay.
Or we can just go to the people and just say, look, just be careful of this. Go and do your due diligence, because coaches don't do that. And I've written a couple of posts in the past, help saying to coaches, this is what you need to look for. This isn't an attempt to get you to hire me. I
Yeah.
don't give a shit if you hire me. I really don't. In all this time I've been on social media, I've literally never pitched to anybody via a DM. I sent somebody a copy of my book via DM on social yesterday, and she's booked a call. Now, that's not common, but I think you can be nice to people or help people and do well as a business. You don't have to be pitching people at all the time. But I think, we can point these things out to people and just say, do you do due diligence? Are they what they seem? And, if you can find whether they are legit, for the most part. Go and look at the website. I went and looked at the website yesterday. Somebody that he used to run, his name's Jason Nybeck, I think it is. And he used to run ads, and he sort of disappeared off the scene. And a thread in Life Coach Snark on Reddit cropped up about him. And I saw his ads running again. I went to look at his website. I mean, testimonials on his website, they were broken links, or it was 4 years ago, or the person doesn't coach anymore. And it's like this stuff that, you can find this. But as human beings, we want to believe it's possible. We want to believe we can effortlessly scale to 10K months in 90 days.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to believe that?
Yeah.
It's not possible.
We all want the magic pill, the magic wand. We all want quick highway to success. Yeah, I agree with you, and that's what I do. But it still bothered me. I also wrote a post on I call it wild west of coaching, and I just listed out red flags. I listed out things that people should check before hiring someone. And it doesn't matter if it's a coach or a copywriter or whoever. Just check these few basic things. Don't fall into the promise. Do you think, and I don't want to dwell too much on this because I got some more questions, but do you think the regulation, and ICF kind of was trying to do that, but do you think some sort of a regulatory frameworks, similar to what we have for lawyers or similar to what we have for therapists, could help with this?
Yeah, of course, because you would immediately wipe out 80-90% of coaches. So if you haven't got the people to prey on, then that industry would just melt away. Plus, the coaches that are there wouldn't have the same competition to get clients, because every new coach that comes in to the coaching world has got the potential to take a client here or a client there from other people. So once if you got rid of 90% of the market, you're going to have a lot more clients. I'm not saying it would then be easy. Plus, you would start to build up the credibility and the trust of the public. And I think that's an important thing. When I first became a coach, people say to me, what do you do for a living? I'd say, I'm a life coach. Like, oh, a life coach. That's interesting. What's that then? We'd chat about it. And now it's,
not another life coach.
He's a life coach. Yeah. So, I feel bad for you. I'm always saying to clients, let's not call yourself a life coach. Let's figure this out and look for something. You have to get to the problem yourself.
Correct. Do you see this happening? Kind of closing that topic. Do you think this happening? The regulations coming out anytime soon?
No, it's out, isn't it? In Austria, I believe. Austria's got.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you've got to call yourself a life coach. You've got to have be at least degree standard. I think maybe somewhere else. I can't remember now. But no, I don't, because I think let's take America as an example. So if America brought it in, you're immediately going to put a load of people onto the job numbers that are coaches that no president, especially this one, is going to want the job numbers going on.
Right.
Somebody's going to get fired. And there's going to be all sorts of this is stopping my First Amendment rights or whatever rights, So no, I don't think it'll happen.
Okay.
I'd like to see it, but I don't.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. I think that might actually help folks who are legit actually stay in business and be easier because of this, what I call the trustworthiness.
Sorry to drag us back to imagine this. Imagine like me, for example. So I did spend quite a lot of money on training, but it wasn't ICF. So would that mean would I be grandfathered in, or how would that the logistics of implementing it and then policing it would be really difficult,
Right.
So.
Well, we do have it in other categories like CPA. I'm a certified accountant in my previous life. They figured out, right, how to be CPA, ACCA. I was ACCA qualified, So I think they can figure it out. It's possible. It's just, it's just too young. It's just too young of a profession, I think, but it will come, but not, I agree, probably not in the next decade. I looked at your packages, right? And they are, the platinum or the one that you recommend is 9 to 12 months. And then you have another one, which is 4 months. And then the intro, which is 6 weeks. So what is the reasonable time period where you can see results and do this, obviously, but do these packages kind of represent what you believe in?
Well, I don't think they represent any belief per se. I mean, the time, the length of time is just. It could be so. My top package is 17 sessions. Some clients will take that over a year. Some will use them in 6 months. It really depends on how fast they've got to implement things and what they're doing between time. But I think it depends a lot on if a client's prepared to go offline as well as online. So I built my business just on inbound marketing. So I didn't do any outreach, nothing. So that's either offline. I think I went to like 2 Chamber of Commerce meetings when I first moved to Orlando. So I didn't do anything offline. It was building a mailing list, building my website that was generating a lot of traffic and then sign-ups, etc., and being very active on social media and getting clients that way as well. I think the opportunity to do that for new coaches isn't there anymore. It doesn't exist. Nobody can do what I did, not because they're not as skilled as I did. That was built on creating a lot of content. Well, guess what? AI can knock out the amount of I was writing. I was publishing about 4 or 5 blog posts a week. I did 150 guest posts in about 3-4 year period to build backlinks. And that opportunity isn't there anymore. It just doesn't exist anymore. Blogs just don't get the same amount of traffic that they used to. Traffic to everything before.
But you did mention the podcast guesting is a new way.
Is the new way of doing that. Yeah. So, but even so, I think to do it online, I used to say a year to build an online presence. Now 2 years at least, I would say. So if somebody comes to me and says they only want to do it online, I'm like, yeah, it's going to take you 2 years. That doesn't mean 2 years working with me, by the way. That means 2 years. Google's not sat there waiting for you to start up another coaching business or somebody starts up a coaching business and Facebook don't give a shit, or whatever social media platform you prefer to use. And building an email list has never been harder than it is now, and never been more important as well. But if people are prepared to go offline and talk to people, so you have 3 to 7 seconds to grab somebody's attention when they land on your website. So you've absolutely got to nail that first headline and grab their attention. The A of AIDA, attention, interest, desire, action, whichever you say. Actually, grab their attention to start to move them down the page. Now, you've got a lot longer when you're talking to somebody nobody's hitting the back button if you're talking to them in the supermarket, or if you're at
3 seconds. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Tell me what you do. Well, I do. No, out of the way. So
next.
So you can build up those relationships a lot
Correct.
faster. I do not like working with coaches. I've got one at the moment, and she's fine because she lives in Tibet. So it's very difficult for her. I beg your pardon, not Tibet, Nepal. She lives in Nepal. So it's very difficult for her to, she
Correct.
hasn't got the sort of opportunities that if she lived in New York, so occasionally it is impossible, but she knows, and she hasn't got to do it super quickly. It's when somebody's got to do it. I did a consult with a lady who was in Mississippi, very rural area. I mean, most of Mississippi is rural, but even more rural than, not one of the bigger towns in Mississippi. And she got 2 kids, and she needed to get up to, I can't remember what it was now, 50, 60 grand in the first year. And I'm like, you're not going to do it. And she said, well, 2 people have already told me I'll be able to do it. I'm like, yeah, of course. You can find people who will tell you can do it because they want your money. And it was a divorce settlement. She was looking to invest. I'm like, don't do it. Learn AI. Go and do, don't become a coach. You're going to lose your money. So, yeah.
All right. Well, since you mentioned AI, that was one of the questions on my list. I've read, I think it's even in your bio on LinkedIn. If the coach is not prepared to learn and use AI, you're not going to work with them. Tell me more.
Well, AI is offering all sorts of opportunities to coaching, and I'm talking now largely with marketing because that's what I deal with coaches, but also within the coaching environment. So what I do with my clients at the moment is all my calls are recorded, and then the transcript, I take the transcript and I put it into a text doc. And then that text doc, an ongoing text doc, so some of them I've got like 15, calls in there, that runs the basis of a prompt for maybe writing website copy, which is something that I'll get involved with clients a lot more these days because of AI that I wouldn't have done before because it was way too time consuming and expensive. So that's the first thing. So it also allows me to go and look back in calls. Did I miss anything? What should I expect? So I've got I used to have a custom GPT, but now I've just got a doc that I upload each time. I don't go on the memory because it's a bit flaky, the memory. And with the instructions of what I want ChatGPT, and I'll get on some of the settings as well. So to go through that meeting, so if I just got a meeting, put it in there, go through it, and then give me next steps and then I'll take that print out and then copy and paste it into an email to send to the client. I used to do the same thing with Fathom when I used to pay for Fathom, but there's no need to pay for Fathom anymore because the same thing. Now, it doesn't save me any time. In fact, I'm spending longer on clients. So a session with a client is, so if somebody books my taster package, which is now 5 sessions, that's 5 hours. You're probably going to get me for more like 15 hours because I'm doing usually an hour before a call and then between going back and looking at notes. So I'm constantly thinking about clients. Okay, what can we do there? But I just don't put that on the website because then there becomes an expectation. And sometimes I need to look between clients who are the ones that I think really need a bit more of my time. So there's that kind of aspect. And by the way, I always get the okay from the client and I turn off the ability for it to use it as training data then because of confidentiality. But the flip side of that is you can use Notebook LM, which is Sandbox, the Google platform, which can just analyze the data and the transcript. So I'll use it for that. I don't use it for writing. I may use it to just clean up because I'm not a very good typist and my grammar can be a bit sucky at times. It cannot get my writing. I've given it all the copy on my website, about 20 blog posts, about 20 emails. My writing, because I'm self-taught, it's very quirky. My humor is very sort of, I was brought up on Monty Python, Blackadder, and very off-the-wall humor. It just doesn't get it right. And I'm like, no, fucking hell, you don't say that. And I've got all these words to tell it not to use and all these phrases not to use and things that I would say.
It probably doesn't like your swearing, right? I don't know.
No, it's fine with that now, actually. It is actually fine with that. It did a headline for me. I did use it for a headline and it was like, for fuck's sake, coaches need to grow, or something like. I can't remember. It made me laugh. I'm like, I can't put that in a headline, you know. So I won't use it really for writing, but I'll use it for generating images. ChatGPT is really good at generating images. Claude is good at generating diagrams and like infographics. You can go into, I don't use this externally, but you can go into Notebook and you can get it to do a mind map of a document if you want to. Gemini's got some ability now to take stuff and create images from the document. So there's all sorts of things like that. What else do I use AI for? What do I think coaches should be using? Well, I think most coaches should be using it for writing, but it has to be edited heavily because I can spot an AI written post like that. In fact, I wrote a blog post telling the 7 things that people forget to change from an AI. But the thing is, Lydia, and it's not so much, well, what can it do now? You know the expression, you should skate to where the puck's going, not where it is now. Coaches are familiar with AI because ChatGPT 5 is going to be out almost certainly this month.
Yeah.
That's going to be another step up. I don't think it's going to be like as big as it was from 3 to 4 or 3.5. But it's going to get, and they're all getting better. Gemini's way better than it was a year ago. I mean, it's really, really powerful. The image creation is better. Video is getting really good now as well.
Yeah.
So this is just going to keep going up. Now, there's going to get to a point where maybe we need quantum computing because it can only go so far with LLMs. So that'll come as well. And then we go from AI to AGI, which could be ChatGPT or artificial general intelligence, where it could be better than human at almost everything. Then ASI, super intelligence, where it starts to do things that we can't do, which may be quantum. So basically, I'm just fucking glad I'm 63 because I don't know, if I got kids that were at school now, I'd be like, I don't know what to tell them. But with coaches, I do know what to tell them. Just keep using it. We don't know where it's going to be in a year. And if you're sat there thinking, I'll just see what happens. No, I mean,
too much behind.
I got into blogging just at the right time when it was starting to take off. And I was lucky that somebody told me to do it. I didn't see that gap myself. I was told by the guy who was doing my website at the time. And I jumped on it, and I got so lucky with that. I went and bought a load of podcast equipment in 2008, Lydia. I drove across Orlando, which is a right pain in the arse drive. It took me an hour to big music stuff. I bought this stuff, spent about $1,000 on it, I think, got it back home, and then realised it wouldn't work with a fucking Mac because I was on a Mac and nothing worked in 2008. Almost nothing worked with a Mac. I had to drive it all the way back, and that was my pod. Can you imagine if I'd started a podcast then in 2008?
Well, look at some of the podcasters who started back then.
Well, Joe Rogan started just after I would have started.
There you go.
I would have been Joe Rogan.
There you go. All right. So you think AI is at this stage where you got to jump in, otherwise you'll be left behind.
Yes. I mean, I'm using it for 2-3 hours every day, sometimes 4 or 5 hours. I'm also listening because I take my dogs out for like an hour and a quarter, hour and a half in the morning, usually an hour in the afternoon. And I'm always listening to podcasts about AI just to see where the trends are going. Listen to the people who really know what they're talking about. Don't go listen to the small podcasts where people are, listen to the top.
Except for mine.
You're not giving talking about the future of AI.
No.
I want to listen to people at the top of the game that are actually doing the research, with things like that. So it's going to take over. It's going to be as big as the internet was for our generation. The AI is going to be for this generation.
Correct. Like with AI taking over, do you think coaching or coaches are at the risk of being eliminated by AI?
Yeah, but huge caveat. Yeah, but it's going to be. This is what I think, and this is what I mean about following this stuff. So at least you've got an informed opinion. I hate it when people say, "Oh, it'll never take over because we're humans and whatever." Yeah, but what's that based on? Tell me what it's based on. So this is what I think will happen. I think AI is going to wipe out the coaches at the bottom. The coaches that are pitching on price, the coaches that are on Fiverr or Upwork or selling the services for $20 an hour or even $50.
Right.
The reason why
like as designers, copywriters, like everybody. So the bottom part of every profession.
Because the people who are trying to find the cheapest coach will turn to AI first. They will try. I've got a friend who uses AI every day as his coach. I mean, he goes to a therapist and he uses that as well. Now, I'm not sure I like, because AI is programmed for you to like it. So we have to be careful. Even when we say be honest, it isn't necessarily going to be honest. We know it lies, it makes shit up and what have you. So I think there's a risk there, but it's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. But there's two things that I think could happen to benefit coaches. First of all, you might find people who wouldn't have hired a coach under normal circumstances start working with AI and thinking, oh, I can see the potential for this now. What would it be like to actually work with a person where we can have a little bit more back and forth and, and in person? So you might find some people coming to coaching that wouldn't have done. But also, I think, there is that we do crave connection. It's hardwired into us to connect with other human beings. So I do think, the higher you go, people will still want to work with the coach because it's another human being, not necessarily because it can give better coaching. I do think not next year or the year after, at some point, AI is going to be better at coaching than humans. There's no reason to think that won't happen. This is about skating to where the puck's going. People are comparing this now and thinking, well, it's not really that good. No, we're 3 years into it since ChatGPT 3 launched. Less than 3 years. 3 years in November, I think it is. Less than 3 years. I can remember I had a record store between 1993 and 2000. I can remember a guy in about I can remember because we moved. I know it was in the first shot that we had. He came in and was telling us about him downloading some music. It had taken him like 8 to 9 hours to download about a minute's worth of music. And we were like, well, that's not going to catch on, is it? What's that all? Just like, it's not that long. Some people remember they were mailing DVDs. I had or whatever. So
the rent, the VHS cassette rentals, rental place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, we're right in the embryonic stage. So to think it's not going to get that good, well, why would you ever think that? That's not how technological improvements happen. They don't just stop. There's no point in human history where it's just like, done everything. Everybody can go home now. We know how everything works. We can't make it. No, of course not. It's just going to get better and better until the machines take over the world and we're all full. So who cares then?
All right. Well, I think I have a bunch of other questions, but I think we have to do it again because, it wouldn't fit in the last 5 minutes. And I think this is the optimistic ending. So kind of let me rephrase what I've heard. And I might have heard it wrong, but I guess, if you're a coach, you got to get into AI, one shape or form to stay on that wave. And AI is not a threat to you if you keep learning, keep improving, invest in yourself, both as a coach and definitely as invest in building your business, becoming better at marketing and selling, because that's what business is about. Did I get it right?
I think you got it absolutely spot on.
Right. Well, Tim, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Again, we'll have to repeat it because I've got bunch more. But for now, thank you, and I hope our folks got a lot out of it. Tell tell our listeners, I keep saying listeners, where to find you online.
Yeah, you can find me at the Fully Booked Coach. I've got the Fully Booked Coach. I've got a sub on Reddit. I've got a Facebook group, and you can follow me, just Tim Brownson on LinkedIn. I'm connected with Lydia on LinkedIn, and yeah, I'm all over the place.
Can't avoid, Tim.
Really, no.
All right. Well, thank you so much, folks, and see you soon.